Вітаю всіх знову у Полі.
Welcome to the program Binding. Once again, we're in a library for children on Peremohy Avenue in Kyiv. Today we have a unique guest that feels at home in this library. As it turns out, we're simply paying a visit to see what she's engaged in. She's a storyteller named Jeany for common folk, but her real name is Yevheniya Pyrog. Today we will talk about children, her books, and everything that happens in our world. Do, let's go. Jeany, you often visit this place and you know children. What are today's children like? Tell us sincerely. When you meet children, do you know what they think and what they will be eager to read? Who are they? What is the young generation that one day will replace us? You know, I never thought that I would become a writer of children's books, because I earned an education in physics. It inspired me a lot. Also, I like to draw, and maybe the optics and physics had a positive effect. This experience helps me to be a children's literature writer. It is possible to interest children because they are quite curious. It is possible to suggest to them some new knowledge or a vision of something that they never noticed from the technical point of view. Sorry, I have to interrupt you. Are they asking you to help them with a physics home assignment? I am more sly. I give them a small assignment in my books. Yet they don't realize it is about mathematics or physics, or rather they don't mind it and play. They're involved in a reading game, where they have to help a protagonist. They have to count, learn something, and save characters. They require knowledge. I want them to learn more and become interested in the technical aspect, because this is a key element in progress. I will be honest and say that I still remember the phrase, learn physics, Alohan. It will one day come in handy. But as for the physics, well, I can count how many kilometers it takes to drive from Kyiv to Poltava, when taking into account the quality of the roads. However, I hear for the first time in my life that knowledge in physics was helpful when reading books and helping out characters.
У цікавих книжках знання з фізики згодилися, щоб щось там допомогти герою.
You know, one book, Security Agent Romchik or Happiness Express, in fact is about happiness. Well, what is happiness? Children are thinking about it. Then they understand that happiness for people around them is something different. For instance, the postman or a senior citizen, for mother or father, for a teacher, or for the head of a library. Someone needs a bikeway so it will be easier to deliver mail. Someone needs different stuff. Yet anyway, people are connected due to understanding that happiness brings us joy. It is something that our communication can give us and connect us. It is important, and so children learn this by reading book. Yevheniya, what about you? What is happiness for you? For me, it depends. In the morning, it may be one thing, and by evening, something completely different. On Sunday, it is yet another thing, while on Monday, I am happy when no one is bothering me. What is happiness for you, from the perspective of a writer? Usually, writers say that happiness for them is to see these children reading their books, or rather, it is more normal from a personal point of view. What is it for you as a writer? Well, the answers may vary. Often, it is a cup of coca that may put you in a good mood and improve your whole day, and that gives you inspiration. Children who are interested and ask about anything are inspiring. The inspiration and the drive that you can do something and pass it on to others is the greatest happiness for me. I try to add something in my everyday life to my family with some special colors. Perhaps some colorful happiness. Yes, colorful. You know, I thought, oh, what a colorful happiness we invited to the Binding program today, when I first saw you. Tell me, please, when you're speaking about inspiration, you know that for a writer, I believe it is a surprising occupation. For instance, musicians have notes and sing into a microphone, play an instrument.
Треба відкривати рота, щось видавати, якісь звуки. Музикант теж саме може щось грати. От письменник.
As for a writer, it is a totally different story. Where do you search for inspiration? Let's say you have an agreement or a deal with a publishing house, and you have certain deadline. You have to release the book or story. You have to sit down and write it. But it is not a mechanical work. Where do you get the inspiration to sit down and write all these stories that captivate the minds of children away when they read them? How does this process go in your particular case? Let's start from the beginning and not the deadline. Well, for instance, I was sitting with my son in our kitchen drinking tea on a misty morning. You barely could see a thing outside, like a TV tower that is usually visible.
телевежі, яку зазвичай видно, зовсім не було видно. Я просто
I just said, look, Denise, the tower disappeared. He looked and then asked, how? Where is it?
Як? А де вона?
I could not explain it simply. Even if explaining it from physical perspective, it would not have been that interesting. This is how the story about a traveling tower appeared.
Казка про подорожі телевежі.
It travels to other towers somewhere in the mist. They together help us to understand the world and communicate in it. So this is a perfect example of how the inspiration can influence me.
Але кожен
However, every writer, or at least I think so, and it is how I work, has to treat deadlines calmly and not rush to complete the work.
спокійно, нормально і працювати. Тобто,
In other words, you have to understand that there is work to be done. On the other hand, the physics or mathematics help me to structure everything.
розумію,
I know how to make it right in order to meet deadlines. When I create projects, I know precisely what depends on every person so that the projects be of high quality and done on time. Listen, it is said that a writer has to have an iron butt.
Повинен мати залізну дупу.
If it is possible to say this so they can sit down and write, whether they have an inspiration or not, or a muse has visited them or not, you have to sit and write because you have an arrangement with a publishing house. However, there are other examples. I witnessed them and I was astonished. It was during a flight over Europe.
Сидів, був нормальний дядечко, а потім в ньому щось таке.
Some ordinary man was sitting next to me, and then he got this look as if he was lit on fire. He clutched a sheet of paper, something like a napkin, got a pencil, and started to write, and it seemed that he couldn't stop.
Писати.
Does it happen sometimes that you walk down the street and suddenly have an urge to write something down?
Треба записати.
так буває, я багато
Sure, it happens. I travel a lot. The road is the time that you can spend for something creative. For example, there is a poem about E95, when I was going to my husband to Odessa for seeing him, since he worked there. Yes, the road or any other place may spark an idea. Once a song similar to gospel was born in the subway because I experienced some emotional distresses and let go of them.
отак от виплеснулися.
You know, we all like to watch viral videos on internet. Some of the videos are quite touching. Let's say firefighters throwing a party for a boy with a terminal illness, or a bride that is terminally ill experiences the most graceful ceremony of engagement. Usually those are American stories, which are unfamiliar for us.
Звичайно, якісь американські, далекі від нас, гарні історії.
Yet they're nice. You will be surprised that we also have these stories, but they're not recorded as a viral video for global exposure. We will discuss such a story with our guest now. I ask you to pay attention and to treat it seriously because in fact it is one of her many projects that we could not avoid to mention.
Її численних проєктів, про які ми не могли не запитати.
Yevheniya, let's talk about the famous project Dmitrik's Library. You have a variety of projects. When I read about you, you're described as an author of this and other projects. You're like Mrs. Startup in Ukraine. But let us review the specific one, Dmitrik's Library. Since we're in a library setting, we will consider it and give it due respect.
Давайте про це.
Basically, these projects support reading for children. Dmitrik's Library supports children of the Donetsk Oblast through reading, which is joyful for me. Dmitrik lived, but now he passed away. But his mission is continuing in the small village Serhiivka near Kramatorsk. When I was told about the boy several years ago, it looked this way. Sad story about a boy with a severe disability. He could not go to school and have friends, but he was 12 years old and he wanted to make friends. I suggested to my young readers from Ukraine to write him letters about their hobbies, activities, so he can feel the engagement of some kind.
З України, щоб діти писали йому листи, що вони роблять, чим цікавляться, щоб він оцей вир хоча б трошечки відчув. І
Of course, also to send him books, because Dmitrik liked to read. So basically, it is the key point of this story, because reading makes beautiful things with us. Dmitrik's life started to change. He made friends all across Ukraine. Children and adults wrote him letters. For instance, an 80-year-old professor from Lviv.
Наприклад, зі Львова 80-літній професор медицини.
The boy was surprised that such a famous person wrote him a letter. Writers sent him books with autographs.
З автографами. І згодом я зрозуміла, що
I felt that I have to establish a format to this book avalanche within some time, so that it comes to fruition. I offered.
І так тихесенько мамі подзвонила, запитала, бо ж
I called the mother because adults can help you with this and gently suggested to create a personal library at the home.
Наразі ця бібліотека налічує більше 2000 книг.
The library houses more than 1,000 books that Dmitrik shared. Half of it was donated to a school library.
Частину в шкільну бібліотеку. Деякі вчителі
Teachers were happy because many books that Dmitrik gave are included in the school curricula, but they were earlier absent in the library. He gave the books to the village library. Then he started to implement his own volunteer ideas and charity projects. He shared some books that were redundant. He had the opportunity to gift some of them away, and he gifted them to the regional hospital in Slavyansk, where he was treated. The deeply moved doctors and nurses confided memories about him from his early age, taking all the books home for reading.
казали, що ми пам'ятаємо, як ти був маленький, хапався за кожну книжку, яка в нас була, і забирав додому. А тут тепер ти даруєш. Ну, він навіть
It was then his turn to gift them. He uncovered the happiness in his personal books made him famous, and made this story famous as well. Ukraine collected these books for the boy, and he helped others to read. He became a Ukrainian world record breaker as the youngest director of a private library. One of the TV projects fulfilled his dream of visiting the Museum of Harry Potter, his favorite book character.
книжковий персонаж.
Пані Євгенія,
Yevheniya, first of all, I'd like to thank you for such a project. It is something that we all needed. I want to ask you, since the topic of inclusion is gaining the awareness now and is at the peak of discussion.
казав би, що вона на піку обговорення, але у нас
We all, I mean people of the middle and elder generation, have a specific view and attitude towards children with special needs.
особливими потребами
Even in some way, a Soviet attitude.
радянське. Я чудово
I
пам'ятаю,
remember what a person with special needs was.
що таке для нас було інвалід або дитина на візку, або той, хтось погано ходить, хтось погано говорить. Це було щось.
Limited ability was something that one must be ashamed of, or avoid touching or hiding it.
Не бажано не торкатися,
показове таке
трохи так
Hiding one's face or eyes.
обличчя, очі. Тобто наразі це
We still have it, but now there are a lot more parents, elders, and teachers than children who say we don't need these children or any other children with special needs.
Ось там якоїсь дитини. Він мені псуватиме весь колектив. У мене
That will make it more difficult for the collective. We have a normal class, normal children. It is a distinctively Soviet attitude that we have to avoid or dismiss, unfortunately, but we still have this stereotype. As a children's book writer who faced the situation on many occasions, what is your advice? What to do in order to make adults understand that everything they think is stereotypical, that the Soviet system indoctrinated us? One piece of advice is to increase communication with these children, both within them and adults. In such a manner, people will learn how to understand this situation. Then you start to realize what is important to ask, and how to act.
Тоді ти починаєш розуміти, от що треба перепитати, де поправити, як діяти. Дітей
Children don't know that because of the reason you mentioned. As adults don't have the experience. That's why all projects and actions which involve people to this collective experience are crucial.
такого спільного і дітей, просто дітей, так, і тих людей, які мають якісь форми інвалідності.
We obtain the necessary practice and experience, and it gives us understanding for further actions. Foremost, how to act. The second advice is books.
Як грати.
It is crucial to provide information through books and specifically show these children and people so they can be a part of our life.
Донести в книжках, саме показати от таких дітей, людей, щоб вони були в цьому просторі. Бо якщо
If we don't see them in literature, we believe that they don't exist. Literature is a way of teaching about communication and special needs and shows how to treat people and cooperate with them.
до цього відноситись, як взаємодіяти, допомагати.
In other words, write and write. Of course, writing is essential. Dmitrik was a prototype of a book's protagonist, the one that I wrote, 31st Meridian. He travels and the book is constructed on the basis of his first adventures. Let's discuss your books.
Про ваші книжки. Ну, а тепер, власне,
So essentially, now about the books written by our guest. A storyteller named Jeany wrote a countless amount of books. A lot of these books are placed here in this children's library. I hope that soon here will be one new book, the one that we will learn about. I'm inspired now, and I also wait for a book that has to be released for the book arsenal. It is a second story of Patrick's adventures, the main character of the previous book, 31st Meridian. However, Dmitrik is involved in a more interesting story now. When he grows up, he's a teenager now, and he ends up on an island where an international youth camp is situated. So being in such an environment, to fly away and transfer oneself so far and gaining new experiences will be interesting for other children who read this book.
Цікаво буде і іншим дітям, які читають цю книжку, тому що
Moreover, the participants of this summer camp are from different countries. Therefore, the book contains information about other countries, and I love to give helpful information in my books. It has information about Puerto Rico, since I traveled there once. I always describe my experiences when I write my books. Overall, my books have a lot of elements that I saw myself. Let's say, if to speak about a book about astronauts, I was in America during the launching of a new rocket. It was there that I got this intense feeling of amazement.
І тоді до мене прийшло таке збентежне відчуття.
Oh, I actually thought that you flew to outer space. Not yet. I have a long list of things I want to do. However, I saw the rocket launching and it gave me goosebumps. I'm not sure why we and our children don't realize here in Ukraine that those rockets are functioning on our Ukrainian-made engines. Why don't they know this? When I started to write a book, I dedicated time not only to describe my impressions, but also learned a lot. There's a school near the library where I was, and children there helped our astronaut Leonid Kadeniuk to prepare biological materials for flights to outer space. Space is closer to us than we think. We have to understand this fact and inspire others. The book that will be at Arsenal describes Dmitrik's travels. We have a working title, 7 Days After Childhood. The character and people who will read it will gain a new experience. The impressions after visiting the island were the basis for the charm of the book. They're also interesting as emotions and knowledge.
І це теж цікаві такі знання і цікаві емоції, якщо там є
What is there? A white lagoon that sparkles. It is even not the craziest part, but the fact that it was conserved. It could have been forever lost, but locals took it and revived it as a matter of fact. Children can both learn and obtain new skills, for instance, the recommendations about how to behave in society. I understand it is a lecture, but it is one that will be interesting for children. Tell me please, you visited different countries, let's say Puerto Rico. So what were your impressions of this country? It is colorful, I loved it. Fine, you saw local children too. I don't know if you had the opportunity to speak with them, but you saw them and every writer sees differences. Tell us, do our children differ from children from other countries? Children may be similar at some point, but they will be different nevertheless. Adults grow up and they're easy to distinct. Children have less of these characteristics yet. Do our children differ from American or Puerto Rico children? Mostly children are children, regardless of their country of birth and residence. They have interests, ideas and whims, because they are children. I was more interested in how adults work with children. We have a lot to learn about it because we're able to do a lot of things that we couldn't even imagine. There must be a practical approach to this. There are different master classes where we can learn about this. On the other hand, I noticed that one has to know how to tell and transfer knowledge. The organizers of these meetings show this potential work and what is the result in order to educate parents. Everyone wants to be happy. People want to learn how to communicate with others or achieve some level. Everyone wants to make our world a better place to live. My books are about these themes. Moreover, Ukrainian books transcend certain borders. Ukrainian books were introduced at famous European book forums and events many times. It is significant progress. We have great achievements and have won many prizes. The books are recognized, thoroughly read, and then translated. It is the right path to take, and I sincerely hope that my books will be there one day. I'm convinced that they will be there and that your books will be translated into many known languages. I wish you that this will happen as soon as possible, and we will meet not only at our book arsenals, and that people will see them in bookstores abroad, including in Puerto Rico or elsewhere. Please write and come visit us again at any time. Please promise me. Of course. Splendid. Goodbye.